There will be 880,000 acres open in the private land open to sportsmen program this fall for walk-in access for hunters. That's about 40,000 more acres than last year. Today we're visiting with Private Lands Coordinator Kevin Kading to go over all the details. I'm Mike Anderson with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department.
PLOTS program stands for Private Land Open to Sportsmen. It's been around since the late 90s, 96, 97 is kind of when it really hit the ground. And it's an agreement with the Game and Fish Department and private landowners to open their lands for walk-in hunting access. Some agreements involve developing new wildlife habitat. Some agreements are strictly access only because they have good habitat. And we've got about 2,500 landowners in the program, 2,500 agreements out there. And so a number of those are continually expiring every year, and so we work with those landowners to keep them in the program, or sometimes we have people that are in the program for a set amount of time and then they leave, and then we have a new landowner that comes in, so there's quite a bit of variety that way. But it's been around for quite a while, pretty well received by hunters, I think, and when you look across the country, a lot of states look to North Dakota as a pretty good role, a pretty good model to follow as far as private land hunting access programs. Out and about across the landscape hunting this fall, you'll probably run across a yellow triangle plot sign that are identifying the boundaries or the locations of these PLOTS tracts. But more commonly, people are using either the PLOTS guide, which is the paper printed guide, or applications like Onyx or some of the field maps that we have on our website as well. So. A lot more people are trending towards the electronic side of things, using Onyx and applications like that on your smartphone, which works really good. You can see exactly where you're at. You can see the boundaries of these. You can see the neighboring lands. You can see other public lands or other PLOTS lands in the area. So it's pretty useful that way. But yeah, I mean, you can still just find them as you're driving around the countryside, just looking for areas to hunt, and stumble across them that way as well too. There will always be a PLOTS sign or some signs identifying a PLOTS tract. We are going to putting less signs on PLOTS tracts, but not to the point where you wouldn't be able to identify them. There'll still be some PLOTS signs on these tracts to identify the area. For the fall of 2025, it looks like we'll be right around 880,000 acres, so a nice sizable increase. We had a nice increase in 2024 as well, so with those two good years in a row, hunters should see some nice additions to PLOTS out there across the landscape. Our staff did a lot of promotion and outreach on the program, and a lot of additional hard work out there on the landscape, and the producer interest is still pretty good. We have a goal of reaching 1 million acres by 2028, and I think we're going to get there. It's not as easy as it was back in the 2007, 8, in that time frame when we had 1 million acres in the program once before, but things have changed on the landscape. We had a nice increase statewide. Overall, I think there was pretty good distribution. We are lacking habitat, I would say, in the eastern part of the state, further east you go, so we've put a little bit more emphasis on new habitat over there. The caveat to that is it costs a lot of money to do that, and we don't get as much for the dollar over in that part of the state, and so it's going to take more money. But yeah, some of our higher demand areas, some of the premier pheasant counties certainly could use some more hunting access there. Some of the waterfall areas in the central part of the state, we've added some nice additions there too, and increased some waterfall access, hunting access for field hunting as well. It depends what you're looking for. Everyone has a little different favorite critter to be chasing out there, and so I think we made some pretty good increases for all those different species, from deer to pheasants to ducks and everything in between. When we were at high peak years of CRP, habitat was in better condition. There was more of it available, and so the PLOTS program at that time was focusing more on just acquiring access to those lands. In the last 10 years, we've focused more on habitat development, or these partnerships to put more habitat on the landscape, but still, it's really a small dent in the big picture. It's going to take more than the PLOTS program to get that done. One thing to add is that, not only did we have an increase, a nice sizable increase in acres this year, but we had a nice addition of about 5,000 acres of new grass planted. So that's brand new habitat that's going to go going in for 10 to 15, 20 years in some cases. So these are nice additions to the PLOTS program, kind of the premier PLOTS tracks, I guess you could call them. You know, those are the ones that they're a little higher dollar figure for us, but they're also paying dividends long term. A lot of wildlife production, a lot of hunting access, a lot of good habitat being put on the ground. And so that's a nice addition to the program as well. Had a pretty good year, obviously, with the, June was a wet month, and so that's good as far as moisture in the ground, but it kind of puts a little wrinkle into trying to get grass planted and get seed in the ground at times, but most of the acres still got planted, and then we had that good moisture coming up, so that's a good jump start for those new grass plantings. Obviously, it's drying down a little bit now this time of year, but we should be in still pretty good shape. So nice habitat conditions out there overall this year. I think hunters will be pretty satisfied. PLOTS is meant to be for a lot of different species, and it varies depending on what part of the state you're in. Sometimes hunters wonder why we enroll a piece of cropland in the program, and it might be because it's a good waterfowl hunting access area, or there might be some wetlands in the middle of that field that offer some wetland or from some waterfowl hunting, or some late season pheasant hunting or something like that. In other cases, we wouldn't probably enroll those areas if it wasn't in the right spot, right part of the state. Other areas are exclusively set up, more for the deer and pheasant or the upland type hunting, and so we do have, those areas are going to be more grasslands or more of those woody areas, or the wetland component out there, the cattail habitat, that type of stuff. And so it really does depend on what part of the state you're in, what species that we're enrolling that piece of property for. But I can say that there's a reason we put it in the program. It's because there's some hunting value out there for some species. It just might not be the one that you're looking for that particular day. So if a landowner calls us and said, I'm interested in PLOTS, the first thing we would do is find out where they're located and get some of their information about location, and in a lot of cases we're out there to do a site visit, and a lot of it can be done over the phone and on a computer nowadays too, but again, depends on what they're interested in. If they want to develop habitat and plant grass, that's going to take a little bit more on-site visits versus there's allowing access to some grass they already have. That type of thing might be a little easier to do, but yeah, it's a little bit of a process we go through and determine the different type of payment that they would receive. Give them an example of what their payment would be and an example of their agreement, and then we leave it up to them to decide if that's for them or not. Yeah. For PLOTS, these are private lands, and so it's a pretty special agreement, that the landowners agreed to allow hunting access and to share their land with the hunting public, and so we don't want people to take that for granted. We want people to treat these with respect. Every little action you do out there can make a difference, whether it's picking up someone else's garbage or just making sure you're parking in the right place or following the rules. There is rules on our website and in the PLOTS guide, and we want people to be respectful when they're out there. Treat them like they're your own piece of property, and the landowners really appreciate that too.